Great. Okay. So let's just start off. You're following me for a lap or whatever. I also turned, if I run earbuds, then my earbuds you don't hear the sound. So I'm not running earbuds. So you can hear the sound as well. So a couple things. One is notice how when we roll out, it's getting up to speed pretty quickly.
Yeah.
It's not, and I think that's something that's really important and is as you progress going to other tracks, it's the mindset of I'm going to accelerate well. I'm going to have good straight up and down braking. And I will add, I'll bring my lean angle up as my brain catches up to it, as I feel grip. Because as you've ridden with me, my first sessions really aren't a lot different than this. It's in the morning, even on new tires, right? I'll brake hard, I'll accelerate hard. I won't run a lot of mid corner, but I'll try to get up to speed quickly.
Yeah.
And that it's a mindset thing of where you're just raising the bar of where you start out at and where your feel level, instead of like, oh well, yeah, I need 5 laps to get up to speed. Well, you're doing 8 laps in the whole session or 9 laps, so it ends up being a little bit silly. So
Yeah.
You just see that I'm going to accelerate hard, I'm going to brake hard, and I'll bring the mid corner speed up as we can. And again, you kind of already know this, but even here, right? And I kind of go to the brakes a little bit early, but then and just slowly like kind of bring things down. I was even a little bit wide on that one, but not bad. Direction was still good. Yeah, I'm working more on those opening laps. I'm working a little bit more on where I'm releasing the brake. So I don't have quite the straight up and down brake pressure, but it's again working on where I want to let off the brake. Here I'm just encouraging you, if you see my hand out like that, it's like start building throttle, right? Start building throttle.
Right.
And it was great because I was pleasantly surprised to say, oh, it's our out lap. Your tires are warm, the track condition's great. Let's, start getting this stuff going. And you can just see where the brake light flickers. That's where the brake's coming off. I'm not using enough brake pressure. My turn-ins are a little bit late. Just not using a lot of straight up and down brake pressure, but again, more focused on where I want to let off the brake, just so as I establish that and I can bring more brake pressure into the situation. Again, just as you see the brake light flicker on that thing, that's where the brake light's coming off. Again, I'm encouraging you to build the throttle and roll onto it. So that's just a little bit of the outlap.
Right.
Let's switch to, I think this one's me following you, correct? Yeah. Let's get by Corey and Mark. So, and yeah, to your point, you'll just see me get a little bit more, just a little bit disciplined on bike placement earlier. I mean, for you, right there at 16, 15, that's pretty darn good.
Yeah, you get to the wall a lot sooner than I do. And I know I'm not using all the track at turn in there. I'm getting better.
Definitely getting better, like quite a bit better. Yeah, I mean, right here at turning, you're pretty good, but yeah, you've got a few feet, not too bad. I have a slightly earlier turn in there, but not bad. Your direction here is fantastic. It's funny, now that you're using a little bit more of your body to help bring the bike over, you can actually see the bike wiggle a little bit. Watch, as you go to the right, you'll see the bike kind of wiggle. How quickly the bike dropped to the right.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I mean, pretty darn good right there. Good
Too
acceleration.
early going. I feel like I need to be a little farther out there.
Okay, yes, but as you organically build more speed through there, you'll get there. So I wouldn't worry about it as so much of a bike placement issue as I would worry about it as you build more overall speed through there, you'll organically get out there. So like if you watch coming in, because if you look, we're a little bit yeah, I mean, just you were a little bit late getting the direction at once. So when you accelerated, it kind of puts you out funny. But I don't. Your ideas sound even here a little bit earlier. You just see that I'm a couple feet earlier here, even in two.
Yeah.
Very good right there.
I
Then
hold
here,
it too long though.
yep.
Ugh.
Yeah, there's in the throttle graph in there, we'll talk about too when we look at the graphs. That was, you had a little bit of a late downshift on that one.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm very tentative
This guy,
on.
I couldn't do that if my life depended on it.
Oh, I know. When I saw your video, I was like, wow,
I
that's
just,
a lot of lean.
it's just nuts, but yeah, oh, well, whatever. Yeah, nice job in there for sure. Beautiful in there. Yeah, and it's when you're following me, your exits, you bring the bike out sooner. So here I feel like you're looking at 9. Because look,
Honestly, I'm looking at the direction cones, which I I feel like I need to be accelerating more past the direction cones. So maybe I'm not looking past the direction cones far enough.
so the way that I look at this, and this will help you. I mean, there's other places where this is a help. I mean, I'm trying to think. Even like Sonoma turned 7. Um, even a little bit of Sonoma 11, Thunderhill 6. But I mean, I'm going to stop it right here. I look at this as so from back here, let me get a straighter deal. So from back here to here is a segment, and it's strictly a drive. So I'm only thinking about bringing the bike out and driving it to here. Because if you wait, and I'm going to overdraw it, but if you wait till here, then you give up on all this kind of throttle building room in here.
Right.
And so my vision, or where my thoughts are, where my vision at is that the edge of the track here, thinking all I want to do is build this segment. So the direction cones, I get it, but think about it, that's direction and not where you're starting to build the throttle.
Yeah.
Because I'm doing the same thing, but I'm getting the bike up and released sooner.
Right.
And then that's what I mean. 9's pretty good. pretty darn good here too. Not bad, a little bit late, just need a little bit more brake pressure. Nice, yeah. It's a little bit, like I said, your direction's good. Just making sure you control the slow point. I mean, that's pretty darn good. Yeah, it's funny how the bike, how much is that are you using on bar input there versus your body stuff there?
It's hard to say, you know, I'm not super conscious of what I'm doing there. I mean, obviously for the right, that's pretty quick, so there's got to be some bar input.
Yeah, I mean, the bike's turning honestly pretty well. The only thing that I'm seeing is like on your left side, your elbow's a little bit more bent right there, just a little bit more relaxed. Then on the right side, you end up like, you can see how you're stiffer on the right side.
Yeah, it's tucked in.
And any time that I'll see somebody's leg in like this, there's very little weight on it.
Huh. Okay. All right.
Because if the knee's in, you really can't put a lot of weight on it. The knee kind of has to be out for that to happen.
All right. Huh. Well, I know, you know, obviously in the morning we worked on that with the Ninja. So, yeah, I'll continue on that thing.
Yeah. Oh, no, of course. Yeah, it's funny. You actually pull your knee in pretty early right there.
Huh.
Yeah, interesting. Not bad.
Too long. So, yeah, I still feel, you know, you talk about how the, you know, wait for the bike to G out before you transition to turning left. And I guess I don't be, you know, in watching your videos and looking at Mark's, and I'm having trouble reconciling where that is.
Well, I think part of it is some of it stems from here. And again, looking at where your body's at, again, you kind of see your knees in right here, and that you're using a lot of arms in here. Like you can see your to the left, your body's fairly relaxed.
Yeah.
And then when we go to the rights, like that's not bad. I mean, it's actually really good. That's really good. And then notice in here, as soon as you tuck your leg in, yeah, a lot of it on the right side. It's interesting. Yeah, that lap was for sure better. Interesting. I didn't catch the downshifts also. I thought we were getting those done a little bit earlier.
There it is.
See how late the downshift is?
Yeah.
So let's kind of talk about that, because here,
Well, with the entrance to turn 6, I can tell you, and you can see it in my throttle graph too. I just don't have confidence in where to come out of the throttle.
so here I'm looking at all these cones. So I see these, and I'm looking at those. And depending on the bike, I mean, I want to be picking the brake. I want to be picking the brake up at the 2 cone, depending on the bike. Like the street triple was pretty great. Even the FZ1's pretty good on the brakes in there. So I'm using those as the spot where I'm picking up the brake. So I definitely see those.
Yeah.
Now, the thing about the late downshift is what happens is, hang on. So here you're going to the brakes, but now you just did you're still doing your downshift. Well, the bike's not going to really want to turn.
Right.
That's why you end up being a little bit late right there. And that was just all a downshift. That's all that was downshift.
Yeah, I think so that's the 2 o'clock session. So I think that's the one where we talked about that after that session.
Okay. All right, well, let's get rid of that session then. Okay, that's the 2 o'clock. Which one's this?
That's the second part of the 2 o'clock.
Okay, which one's this?
3 o'clock.
Okay, great. Did we already watch this? Oh, we watched did we watch the 2 o'clock?
The throttle, yeah, when you were leading, demonstrating throttle building.
Okay. Go up a little bit. There we go.
It's funny to watch you're on board, and it sure looks like I'm using all the track.
Are you picking up any brake for one?
One, very seldom.
Okay.
Maybe just a smidge.
I mean, we'll look at the data here in a second. I think that is something that we can look at as well, where it sometimes can be a little bit, I mean, it's a confidence thing. I mean, I'm definitely dragging some brake in there. Do we have a brake graph in here? No.
Not in that one, but
Yep. So you can see, you can see where I'm dragging just a little bit of brake there in one.
yeah.
And the reason I'm doing that is that's what's giving me permission to accelerate.
Right.
So I'm telling myself I can hold the throttle wide open in there because I know I can get the bike to turn with just that little bit of brake pressure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just barely over 2 bar. So something to think about in there in your one is, actually, let's just go back to that, is if you look at, right, your throttle graph is you go to wide open, kind of relax, go back to wide open, and then you've got the slow roll off, where ultimately, ultimately we want you to get, hold wide open longer. But in your head, you might be able to go, okay, then I can get the bike, I can hold it because I am going to use a little bit of brake in there. So that may not be a bad thing for you to think about in there, is just like, I definitely want to use a little bit of brake. And it just calms you down a little bit.
Yeah.
But let's actually talk about another important part of that. And I think that might help you in two, which is, okay, great. You don't use any brake in there. So what do? You go back to the throttle. Well, as soon as you go back to the throttle, your speed will maintain, but your radius could potentially open up. Well, what that does is then here, if you kind of roll off again, and then you go back to it again, Well, now you're actually going to the brakes later than I am right there.
Right.
So that, and that just helps think about, okay, getting the direction done a little bit earlier.
Yeah. Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, actually, that's interesting. I wouldn't have thought that I was going to the brakes earlier than you, but clearly I am. Yeah, interesting. And then, all right, actually, hang on. Let's hold on to that thought. All right, let's go back.
Ugh.
Yeah, well, that's exactly no, but that's exactly why, right?
Yeah,
Is
I went in there too hot for my comfort level.
let's just skip a lap here. I want to see that again. I want to see a different turn one.
It was mostly better than that.
Oh no. That's why I was surprised because I mean you did shake your head a couple times in two, but it was not very often.
You caught that. You caught that when I shake my head, huh?
Oh yeah. But okay, let's go back and look at the timing on this. This is great. So you're wide open in here, great. And then you kind of roll off, fine. But with no brake, right there. Do you see how you pick up the throttle right there?
Because I'm telling myself I need to be accelerating past that apex.
Yeah, I think if we look at the timing of mine, I'd say I'm probably picking the throttle up at the apex or very close before it.
Okay.
And yours, but here's the problem is that ends up like moving your trajectory a little bit.
Yeah.
And then what happens? You end up sort of holding the throttle or actually rolling off. I think that's going to be a good thought for you is when you go to the throttle, it should be like when you go to the throttle, your thought should be, okay, great. I just don't want to I want to move my hand so I don't have to give up the throttle.
Yeah. Yeah. This is a recurring thing for me.
Yeah. And then, I mean, you're making actually massive strides with it for sure. But because you're not using brakes there, you go back to the throttle. So what happens, right? The bike wants to start to open up and you go, oh shit. And then you roll off. And then that's what makes you late in for two. Yeah, because right there, you're just picking the throttle up at the apex of two. Okay, so let's go back and look at the data on that because I want to see, this is something that I am actually working quite a bit on in the car as well. Yeah, so, all right. So we have two here, great. Yeah, and that's the thing is you're actually a little bit later on the throttle going into two,
Yeah.
which then picks it up a little bit later in three. And I'm definitely rolling off. I'm sorry, that's one. And then I'm trying to look at mine in two. Yeah, I don't quite roll off all the way. I don't quite roll off the way between two and three. And
It's like
then
you're
accelerate.
massaging the throttle through there.
Yeah, and so this, yeah, and this is actually something I've been working on quite a bit on the bike and the car, which is like two, rolling up, rolling off, but not quite all the way. And then same thing down to three is accelerate again, but not let off quite all the way. Now this is going down into four. And you can see that I actually get to wide open throttle coming down from three to four. But then, and then yes, I do roll off all the way right there.
That's between 3 and 4.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
3 is the right, 4 is the left. Okay.
Yeah. And then on the throttle graph is, I pick the throttle up and then I pick it up enough to try to pull, I try to pull or add throttle. And then when my radius starts to open up too much, then that's where I'll back off just a little bit. And then I try to start that nice slow throttle build out of there.
Yeah.
This is where this part right here is pretty huge. But you can see I never completely roll off.
Right.
And that is important on maintaining that speed because you can see where I'm building throttle. So I build less throttle initially. And I think that's the important part is I build less initially. You build more initially. And then I'm able to just to start that slow build, of acceleration. So
Right.
if you look at your trajectory in here, let me back this up a little bit. Right here, that's where you add more throttle than I do. And then you roll off more than I do. And then you drive out. I
Right.
guess the way for me to say that is, or the way for me to try to explain that is like something like this. Like this is a horrible drawing of 5, but you kind of get the idea. Is what I'm trying to do is make a little bit, instead of making the way you see some people make this corner, which is like they make these extreme V's out of 4 to 5.
Yeah.
I'm trying to come in, here and then build one throttle application from 4 exit of 4 out through 5.
Right.
And what you're doing is you're doing a much better job with this, but think about being quote a little slower here so we can have that gradual throttle build off here.
Right. So
So
like at what point should I be starting to build throttle toward 5?
we'd have to go back and look at my data riding your bike, but it's more in it's in this area right here.
Right. Okay. Yeah, and I can pull that up on mine.
So this is what I was in my car. I was actually making kind of a big mistake with this. And, I was trying to be a little bit more aggressive. And this is where I again, I kind of tried to have to think, I had to think this out a little bit because part of it ended up being a little bit of a safety and consistency issue. So coming down, like in the car, what I was doing, and I was doing this on bikes as well, is I was definitely being more aggressive with the throttle, like holding wide open throttle longer in here, and then like a really deliberate turn. So kind of like that V of 5, but instead of making like what you see some people, they come out here and they make the V, really wide and far. I was doing the same thing, but my V was earlier, and then I would start my drive here. So the problem that I found with that is, I was absolutely faster in this area. And then I ended up being a little too slow here. But what I found was I started having grip issues here.
Oh, right.
So, and I spun the car.
Yeah,
Right.
I remember that.
And I spun the car because, right, I was like, okay, well, I want to be more deliberate, get it in, get it pointed, get it driving. And it just wasn't, that was not going to be a sustainable way. Even on the bike, I started to suffer a little bit in there where I'd get in and I'd start to have more grip issues there than I thought. So that's why I thought, okay, I'm going to go a little slower earlier and then have a nice slow throttle build. The lap time really isn't much different. It's a wash.
But the grip is significant.
Well, yeah, the grip and the consistency is dramatically better.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is where one thing where the Garmin data is actually very, very good.
Right.
So anyway, that's the idea in there. And I think right now is you've made, again, big strides in there, but this is sort of what the overreaching goal is right there.
Right. Absolutely.
And on the 400, it's great. I mean, the 400, you do a nice job in there in the 400. 400 is such a great tool.
Yes. And again, see, I just kind of come out of the throttle because I don't.
Yeah, and really nice early downshift there. So let's go and watch that.
Yeah, I think I mostly fixed that after we talked about it in the 2 o'clock session.
Yep, great. And the reason I wanted to point it out in that other session is that's why you were just off that apex a little bit.
Right.
And again, later on in years, when you're coaching and you see late downshifts like that, I've seen coaches want to go, oh, well, you need to turn in earlier or you need to use more brakes. And it's actually, no, you're waiting to downshift, so you're waiting to turn.
Right.
Let's go back to the data here real quick. Okay, so when we look at here, so this is into 6. You can see it a little bit in this brake graph. And I think this is something that we need, something we can pay attention to. It's not something that we need to like overthink, but this is exactly what I'm working on with CJ. Is almost every one of his brake graphs has that late hold. And the difference in roll speed there is actually fairly dramatic. Like when we fixed that at Road Atlanta in turn 1, so basically we took his brake graph and I was like, CJ, I don't want to change your left side of the brake graph. We want to change the right side. So what he did is this brake graph it just came down like this.
Right.
It was 4/10 of a second. 4/10 of a second.
Wow.
And that's what got this speed going right here. So it's and you'll see it, right? It's just here, you were perfectly fine, but you're perfectly fine going into the corner. It's just because you're doing an efficient job here and you're doing an efficient job with your bike placement, then that end of graph can speed up a little bit. It's an awesome problem. And it's like, if you look at your turn, what is that? Turn 12 graph, your turn 12 graph is awesome on that. Even your 11 is pretty good on that, because here at 11, I mean, I get where you got to add a little bit of brake pressure as you go down there. Yeah, it's actually pretty darn good. Yeah. Anyway, that's for 6. That'll definitely help a little bit of roll speed in there. And you have to realize I've got a ton of room in there, right? I have a ton of room in there to bring the bike back.
Yeah.
And it doesn't look like much. But you watch it. We'll watch it again in real time. You can just see the brake graph just hold on to itself a little bit. Right there.
Yeah. Bounce back. That's the other one where I need to hold the throttle longer.
So the way that I would look at this is, I mean, this is fantastic. This is great. This is awesome. This is awesome. So right here, when you roll off, be more deliberate on like either roll off, and then go back to it. And even if it's just a like you do in 2, and it's fine. Hang on, let me send CJ a text.
Yeah, because you're turning it over on wide open throttle there, aren't you?
I might be. Hang on a second. I'll look at the graph here in a second.
which that is something that is new to me. And honestly, the mini moto has been huge for that. Just that day at Dixon, when I realized if I want to go faster, I need to turn it on wide open throttle.
Yep. Yeah. So going back to the data, um,
Oh, you do roll out just a little bit there.
yeah, I roll off a little bit because if it's very difficult to do it, like a couple of, like I can't do it on the FC. No way I can even do it on the FC1. There has to be a little bit of a roll off.
Just to shift it.
That's exactly right. There's got to be a
Yeah.
little bit of weight moving forward. So I think in your graph, I don't want to recreate the wheel, but in your graph is let's think of it this way. Is like if this is your throttle graph, is if we held it just a little bit, you know, brought it down more deliberately, and then brought it back up a little bit more, even if it's that, then you're good.
Yeah.
So instead of having that slow roll off, think about being more deliberate where I'm gonna roll off to say 50%, 40. And then once it starts to turn, go back to it. I think you'll be pretty blown away at what it does for the miles an hour.
Yeah.
And the thing is, you know, if you look, your yeah, and your braking there is I mean, you're not really using a ton of brake pressure in there, so you got plenty of room. And you can see, like, you know, here I go to the brakes. I'll go to the brakes as we go down the hill just to start to drag them and then build more pressure down into 8. And then it's you can see that's a nice deliberate roll off into 8.
Mm-hmm.
Trail off into 8. Yeah, that's actually quite interesting. Yeah, that actually might be. Yeah, I was actually looking at 6. So let's go back and look at 8. Yeah, yours, you obviously are going to them earlier, lighter. I'll pick it up at the bottom and then obviously build in a good brake pressure and then get off of it pretty quickly. But what's happening is here on your brake graph, that's where you're having to get the bike to turn into 8. And it's just not a ton of brake pressure to make that happen. So yeah, I think this is actually going to be a good one where, yeah, where you'll be able to make that happen. Yeah, I was screwed up. I was talking about 6. I made a mistake there.
Okay.
Yeah, so yeah, your throttle out of it. Yeah, this is actually fascinating. So out of 6, we're near identical. I'll go to wide open throttle. I actually roll off a little bit sooner, not all the way, and then go back to it. That's exactly the graph that I was talking about for you. Again, I made a mistake. I made a mistake from 5 to 6. Here, you're holding on a little bit longer than I am, but then just trailing it off. So that's actually a good thing for you, which is like, okay, I'll go to wide open throttle. I'll actually roll off a little bit sooner and then help get the bike pointed down there. Yeah, I like that a lot.
Huh.
Yeah, yeah, I was drawing it off of 6, but this is exactly what I was talking about. Roll off sooner, not all the way, and then that way you can go back to it. So that's perfect.
Okay. And then throttle release as soon as I see the beginning of the right-hand curve for 7.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, that's the scary part for me because I'm anticipating it.
Just have to remember, if you're wide, if you're straight there, you're in pretty good shape.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, and then that's what allows that brake graph, right? You see, I'm building more pressure, but then getting off of it a lot earlier too.
Yeah. So now I remember in a previous discussion that you had talked about dragging the brake over, you know, down the drop. But here it looks like you're not going to the brakes until you're probably pretty close to the bottom.
Yeah, but I mean, so in my mind or my world, this right here is dragging the brake. You see that?
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just dragging it as I
No,
get.
that's me.
No. I'm red.
Right.
But you see
Oh,
how
yeah, that's okay.
that in my mind is my little brake drag right there.
Okay. I'm gonna have to look at yours and compare it in the video to see exactly where that starts.
And then 8, I mean, honestly, your initial acceleration at 8 is awesome. I'll build it, obviously get the wide open throttle coming out of 9. So when you see my hand in front of you, getting you to move it,
Yeah.
it's getting you to, we've talked about this, right? Which is getting you to move your hand a little bit faster in that, whatever that is, 40 to 60 range.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, your graph in here isn't bad. The one that we want to try to work on is this one though, where you go back to the throttle after 9, right? Because we know turn 9's in here.
Mm-hmm.
I'll hold the throttle open between 9 and 10. And then I roll off for 10 and then add a little throttle between 10 and 11.
Yeah. Is that the rise?
Yep. It's after the rise.
Okay.
So think about it this way. The curb on the right is about right here.
Okay.
So all we need to, I wouldn't change anything you're doing in here other than use more of the track out of 8, because that helps you set up for a better 9. In your graph, if you just get to the curb as you come over the crest, just add, it's the same thing like you're doing in 6 to 7, right? Add a little bit more here, and that'll add the speed into this area. And of course, on the 400, right, you're tapped that whole way through there, and it's no big deal.
Yeah, no, on the 400, it was, when do I release the throttle? At what point on the right-hand curb as I come over?
Yeah.
And that's where I felt like I could keep pushing myself a little bit more.
Yeah, so this is, and you can see it right here in your throttle graph out of 8. This is right here where the throttle pauses. You just watch the throttle sort of stay in that same zone.
Mm-hmm.
This is great. And then I'm talking right here, you can just give it another little squirt of gas. Doesn't have to be wide open, but it's just a little rip.
Right. Just to maintain some speed.
Yep. Because right in here, you can see it's actually a pretty big coast for you.
Yeah.
Because you're not picking the brake up till almost the curb on the left. So you're just kind of coasting through there. Watch that again. Because you're fast in here, super fast. And then right, just a little rip, just a little rip right in there.
Okay, so I'm always a little hesitant because I'm still at a pretty decent lean angle there.
That's pretty darn good in there. Yeah, let's see what my throttle hand does in there compared to yours. Okay. Yeah, I think I'm holding it here because the bike wants to wheelie over that crest.
Mm-hmm.
And then I finally get it to get to wide open. I mean, your throttle off here is actually pretty darn good. Mine just moves a little bit. Again, it moves a little bit faster in that 40 to 70 range, but that's actually pretty good. I don't think there's a lot of lap time there anyway.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, when I'm coming out of there, I mean, I feel like, I mean, because I have tried wide open faster, and the front end definitely gets light, and then I
Oh
have
yeah.
trouble turning it.
Oh yeah. I think that street triple was the same way. That thing wanted to wheelie there pretty easily. Yeah, and even at a 12, I mean, your initial throttle at a 12 is just fantastic. It's awesome. You're
I
so
don't
good
feel
at-
like, I mean, obviously you're getting to a lot more throttle. I don't feel like I can get to more throttle without losing the rear, because I feel like I'm still.
Is the TC on?
It is, yeah. I mean, it's not engaged, but
No, that's what I'm saying. If the TC is not engaged, you're good.
all right.
Uh,
I'm working up to it. Well, see, that's part of why I want to try the TC in a more intrusive
yeah,
setting.
yeah, I don't disagree. Yeah, you're good in here. You're so fast in 12 to 13.
I tried going a couple times. I tried going to the brakes just slightly later, but then I would overshoot 13.
Yeah, I mean, you're pretty freaking good in here.
Thank you.
I don't. Yeah, actually, I don't want to really change much in from 12 on. I really don't want to change much. You're pretty good in there. Uh,
Yeah, I don't know if there's a lot of time to be gained there.
there's not. Yeah, there's not. Yeah, I think that's pretty awesome. All right, what other graphs do we have here to look at? That's the
You
speed.
still, your lean angle is like through 4 or 5 is, I don't know how you do that.
Yeah, I mean that's where I feel. I mean that's actually where I feel like your pegs. Like I've felt your pegs there before. All right, let's look at that.
Really, you drag the pegs?
I just felt my foot clip the ground there a couple of times. All right, yeah, there's definitely a lot more lean angle in there, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, just getting the lean angle a little bit sooner in 6. Yeah, definitely a little bit more in there.
I don't feel like 6 is like super important
Nah,
for,
it's not.
yeah, it's just so wide and flat through there.
I think part of it though is if you look at some of what this is telling me is, I'm getting my knee on the ground sooner. Getting my knee on the ground sooner, meaning I'm getting the bike leaned over earlier.
Yeah.
You can see that like, here we're actually get to the same lean angle. It's just I'm getting to it sooner. Getting to lean angle sooner. Yeah, getting the lean angle a little bit sooner. So that's something to think about is we're not really using what's our max lean angle? It's not a ton. Is it a ton different?
Well, you
5
show
degrees?
60, you show 61 and 58.
Yeah. Yeah, versus your 52 and 53. Yeah, I mean, it is more for sure, but I think is realizing that I'm getting to, leaning, I'm getting lean angles sooner. And
Yeah.
that's one that you can start to think about and work on. That's exactly what we're working on with CJ as well. Is if we compare CJ's, like for instance, to Ben or Hayden, let's see what's a good one. Like this would be a really good one as an example where Hayden's got his lean angle going sooner. CJ gets to the same lean angle. It just takes a lot longer to get there.
Yeah.
And as your, again, as your brake graph gets better, turning gets better, all that's going to sort of happen organically. All right. Well, what other parts of these drawings can we look at? And then I want to talk specifically about your plan a little bit.
Well, your trail braking numbers are still appreciably higher than mine. And I think that just takes me, more time getting comfortable with brakes at lean. Just knowing that there's more to be had.
Yep.
Accelerating out, not that different.
No, no. I mean, honestly, for the most part, your drives are freaking awesome, which is great, right? That we don't have to worry too much about that. I think the timing of it, we can, we'll play around with a little bit, but for the most part, your drives are very, very good.
Okay.
Yeah, it's actually this is actually kind of interesting where um, part of what we talked about on your graph, like your acceleration graph, you can see. So the way I'm reading this is Excel out of 8.
Yeah.
And you can see that, you kind of have that pause in Excel out of 8, and then you accelerate pretty darn hard. Same thing here, right? You just have that little bit of a pause with some of the acceleration.
Yeah. Yeah. That's throttle hand moving
Yep.
faster.
Yeah,
At
yeah, yeah.
lane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The initial's freaking awesome though. That's super interesting.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, otherwise, I mean, all that looks pretty good. So I guess to sort of, okay, what are we going to go execute when we're here next time?
Well, the throttle, built-in throttle, it, and I am hesitant to mention it, but kind of goes back to one of Keith Code's things where when you go to throttle, you need to go to throttle. You need to just build it. Don't mess around with it.
Yeah, I think there's a couple things there. One is I'd rather see you in a position to where and again, I'm sort of overdrawing. Actually, let me go to a different graph. Is, just continuing to work on, graphs like this, which is just freaking beautiful, right?
Mhm.
Just awesome. Continue.
That's
Yeah, I mean, just continue
six,
to
no,
work
that's
on.
eight.
That's 8, yeah. And even in 6 is, we'll start to clean up this a little bit. Your drive off of 5 is fine, but we'll just start to clean up, this part of the build.
Right.
Same thing here, like this is off of 11. We kind of talked about that already, but it's keep keep it moving off of 12, keep it moving off of 16, keep it moving. So and this one, 16, we both have to let off a little bit because you start your drive and you get the bike to go from left to right.
Right.
I get it, but again, it's just take what yours is and just try to extend it a little bit more like mine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that's a really good one. And then we'll work on the turn 6 to 7 is actually rolling off earlier. So if you look at this, right, rolling off a little bit earlier and then, building that throttle down into 8 a little bit. So that graph, and then we'll work on the turn 10 graph a little bit. And then brakes for 1. I think that is going to be a good one for you. That's, oh yeah. I can hold the throttle on a little bit longer. And notice how I said hold the throttle on longer instead of rolling off, whatever that throttle amount is, because I'm gonna use a little bit of brake there. Yeah, so I'm pretty good with that. And then I still do want to work on some of the body stuff, just making sure that we're just not getting wrapped up on our arms. So not getting wrapped up on our arms on exits.
Yeah. It's interesting. And I'll mention this, and I don't know if it means anything. So when I was working with my kid on the Grom, trying to show her how to do tight turns, I just started playing around, talking about, move your head, look way inside. And, as I'm just doing circles around a cone, left hand, man, no problem. I mean, I can go fast and lean a bunch and hold a perfect radius. Right hand, it's really hard for me to do.
And that's exactly what we just saw in the video, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that is fascinating. Let's see, I did a video. I'm starting to edit a video here. This was Mark's video following me.
Mm.
Yeah, and the FC1 is a real problem in 14. 14 is kind of like the worst one where I literally have to like literally let go of the right bar, like my right hand. Otherwise, the bike, that front end on that bike is so horrific. And that, because it's downhill, it's just the worst possible combination for that bike. And so to get the bike to turn, and it's honestly, it's a little scary because the thing is, if I hold on to the bike, it makes it worse. But then it's like, yeah, chicken and the egg. So right in there, it's just, I am constantly like, literally, there's a little bit of a pause right here because I'm trying to relax and you can see how my knee stays out, right?
Yeah.
My knees, if as soon as my knee comes in, the weight's going on my hand. So you see how my knee is still out?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you can actually even see I have to consciously, like, for lack of a better term, raise my elbows up. And if otherwise the thing just will not, it won't turn. Yeah, that one I couldn't get it stopped. So right in there, but if you can see my right, again, my knee is out. My right arm is actually like very, very relaxed. My knee is still out.
Yeah.
And then you see my knee comes in, and of course my arm's going to come in when that happens. And then again, knee comes out. Yeah, there's actually a pretty good picture that I have here. Hang on, that somebody sent me. Let's see if I can find it. Yeah, no, that's not it. Anyway, I'll find it. I have a picture of the FC1 in turn 15, and you literally can see my inside hand is how relaxed it is. And if I don't ride that bike that way, and I don't have my core tight, the bike will not work. I mean, it will not work. Again, just because on how where did I put that picture? Anyway, I'll send it to you. So I think that's something as well, as getting a little bit more relaxed on your right hand. So you're saying when you're doing like even Grom stuff, the right hand stuff is tough.
I don't know if that's the cause necessarily, but I have a really tough time doing as tight of a radius circle, and I'm just nowhere as consistent with the cone work on the right side as I am with the left.
That's actually fascinating because we see that in your riding. Your left is always more relaxed than the right. So let's kind of put a note in there on that, where I think that's something that we should just be aware of or think about a little bit.
Yeah, so along those lines too. So Davey's putting together one of those Cheech Lorenzo sort of things. I forget who the trainer is, but he's coming up from LA, and we're going to go to a San Francisco parking lot with our mini motos and, you know, work on goofy mini moto stuff.
I think that stuff's great. Yeah, I mean, anytime that you're at a point where, I mean, being comfortable at lean angle is good, right? I mean, is good for you.
Yeah.
So I think anytime that you can do that is good. I didn't really, hang on a second, now that we're thinking about it a little bit. I don't know what that is. I don't know if that's me riding around. Oh yeah, that's you. Let's go. Yeah, we can take a look at your foot position a little bit there, but I don't think that's a big issue. I mean, the ergonomics on your bike have gotten dramatically better.
Yeah, it feels good to me.
I mean, that looks pretty, honestly, that looks pretty freaking good. All right, yeah, I'm not gonna overthink it. I'm already overthinking it. All right. Yeah, so I think the plan will be, let's just, obviously continue with what we're doing. Have you decided what you have just thought about on another bike?
I'm still open to suggestions there. I guess until you mentioned it, I hadn't even thought about the street triple. I mean, obviously power wise, it's fairly different from the Daytona. So it's really more of an ergonomics thing. Geared slightly differently. But if you think that's worthwhile, I'm totally game.
Yeah. I do like the idea of you being, starting your morning out on something that's
Tamer.
yeah. It seems like a good way, and you definitely get up to speed quicker on your Ninja 400.
Yeah. But there's a part of me that's thinking, ooh, maybe I can get Ken to ride my street triple and like properly set up the suspension too.
No, and that's the other one. So here's the deal, because I know it's a pain in the ass for you to bring too. So I was trying to think about that.
It's not that big of a deal.
Well, the thing is that this is a big commitment for time and everything. Let's make the most of it. Let's bring the street triple. And the reason is because we've already done a little bit with the 400. We have some data on the 400. Let's get data on the street triple, because it's the opportunity. Let's just grab this opportunity cost, and it's a pain, but let's do it. I'd say let's bring the street triple.
Okay, street triple it is.
Yeah, and that way we can, like I said, we want to do some suspension work on it. We can, kind of get that going, and the bottom line is it's also an easier bike to do some ergonomic things on than it is the other one. So if there's things that we want to play with, we can do that.
Yeah, and that one, it forces me to keep my elbows up too, just because otherwise the arms get in the way.
Yeah, got it.
Other logistics, should I rent a garage or can I share one with you guys? It's just me coming up this time.
Yeah, just we're gonna rent 2 garages, so we'll just pile into one.
Okay. Is it worthwhile? So the Daytona, the left side of the rear is kind of profiled. Is it worthwhile for me to flip the tire, or should I just put a fresh tire on?
I mean, I'd put no, I'd put a fresh one on. I mean, then our right side sucks. So it's just yeah. I mean, no, let's just put a tire on it. Let's just not deal with it. Let's put a tire on it. That way, there's no
questions.
Worry about it. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I'll have a fresh front and rear then.
Awesome.
Are there any other logistics? No, but there's lots of stuff I want to pick your brain on at some point. I know you've got other stuff to do.
What else?
Uh, I pinged Mark about possibly doing Thunderhill East private coaching, and there was a weekend that would theoretically work for him in November. Any thoughts on that?
I mean, Mark is awesome. I mean, if you can get Mark to work with you at Thunder Hill, freaking go for it. I mean, that is a score.
Yeah.
I know he was trying to coordinate coming down to Chuckwalla too. So
Yeah, Checkwalla is more difficult for me
no, no,
logistically.
no. But I mean, he was on his way to Chuckwalla, I think, is what the idea was.
Oh, okay.
So Mark was thinking about meeting you, I think, scheduling his journey down to Chuckwalla around the time that you guys were going to work together.
Oh, okay. Well, he was looking at flights and stuff.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Okay. Yeah, I wasn't sure on that then. I mean,
Yeah.
if Mark can get to you in Chuckwalla or sorry, to Thunder Hill, yeah, go for it. I think that is good.
Okay.
I am trying. It depends on what's going to go on with. I'm trying to figure out my schedule in late September, October, but I am thinking about spending a week in the NorCal area the first week of October after the school, because
Uh-huh.
there's a bunch of stuff I need to do with my dad's. And so that's something that if there's any days like after the school, that's something we can look at too.
Yeah. Well,
I'm planning on driving down for those.
okay. If and I think well, obviously we a while ago we had talked to we'd started poking around with doing some private coaching or a private day. If that's I'll send you an email with a link to the Thunderhill schedule.
Yeah, great. Great.
And yeah, if there's something in there, I know there's a few of us, what do you think your capacity is? Do you think like 3 people?
Yeah, I mean, I really don't want to do more than that, but yeah,
Okay. And Mike up in Reno would probably be interested in that, I'm guessing.
for sure. Yes.
Okay. Okay. So maybe like Mike, Dylan, and myself.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. And yeah, and if you're in the area, if you make it out toward the Bay Area, you're always welcome to borrow a bike or, I'll take you on a little tour.
Oh my God. Yeah. I haven't street ridden forever, but yeah, no, I'll think about it. Like I said, my brother and I are going to try to coordinate some stuff at my dad's house. We did a bunch of shit there. I did a bunch of shit there this last week, and now I've got to start making some dump runs and all that kind of stuff. So that's why it's going to be easier for me to bring my truck.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. Well, I'll send you that. I'll send you a link to their schedule, and if there's something that makes sense, then
Cool.
that would be awesome.
Cool.
Okay. Terrific. Well, thank you, Ken.
Thanks. Yeah, I'll send you the link for this. And actually, I should have just done it. I don't know why I did that. I should have just recorded it to the cloud, but I'll send you a WeTransfer or something like that for this. So should be
Okay.
good.
Yeah, that'd be great. And
Awesome.
do you want me to send you some money for this?
No, you're good.
You sure?
Yep.
Okay. All right.
Awesome. All right.
Thank you, Ken. Looking
Thanks,
forward
Aaron.
to
Hope
it.
you have a good rest of the day.
Yeah.